We are on live with Sondra, CEO of Gatemaster Technology, and I've got a very special guest with me today. We've got James McQuade, the Food and Beverage Director of Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay, here to talk to us about navigating the food and beverage landscape and how we can enhance innovation and enhance the guest experience. So I just want to welcome James to the live show. Hi, James.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Well, I think I told you we do about 15, 20 minutes here for this audience. And I just want to jump kind of right into it because I've got a lot of questions for you. I know you've had some
Oh, great.
conversations with Tiffany, our food and our customer success manager, and she says, you got to talk to this guy. You can talk to this guy. He's got a lot of good information. So let's jump right into it if you're okay with that.
Sure, go right ahead.
So I want to talk about guest service excellence and the dynamic environment that we see today in attractions. And as the food and beverage director for Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay, I know that you oversee a large team responsible for delivering an exceptional experience. What are some of the core principles that you have for ensuring guest satisfaction in this fast-paced attractions environment? Can you share that with us?
Yeah. So the overall mind frame and motto for us at Kentucky Kingdom, well, first off, let me kind of go over our parent company. Our parent company is Hershey and Family Entertainment, which is Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, Wild Adventures, and we became a part of their family a little over 2 years ago now. And our motto has always been creating memories worth repeating. And in the food and beverage side of things, we like to say creating memories worth eating. So that's kind of fun,
Yeah, I
right?
love
But
that.
it's kind of instilling in your team that every time you have an opportunity to work with a guest coming up to you and having that transaction with you, it's something that could be creating a moment. It's not just eating a pretzel, it's making a handcrafted pretzel right there for you that's warm, it's hot, it's got that amazing flavor, you got that taste, that smell, so that every time you're walking through, you all of a sudden have that nostalgia moment of a time back when that you really enjoyed. And that might actually be that time at Kentucky Kingdom or whatever theme park or experience you're being a part of. But that's really where it comes down to, is getting our team behind the idea of really creating an experience for our guests that they're going to want to come back again and again and again for their favorites. We pride ourselves on our funnel cakes at the Kentucky Kingdom. We have the cinnamon bread that we do over at Dollywood, that they're world renowned for. We definitely do our best to try and honor their tradition as much as possible. But we like to obviously take what we're given and create some new experiences. And our chef, Alan Bagley, he did a fantastic job last year, and it's carried on into this year by making a pumpkin pie sauce as part of
Ooh.
our pumpkins event that we do in October. And it had rave reviews, and we ended up expanding where you could get the sauce this year. And the guests said they liked it, they bought it, they enjoyed it, and we gave them more of it. So being able to kind of utilize what we do in house and find new ways to use items is always a big part of it. And then when it comes to the innovation piece of it, it could be both back of house and front of house, right? Obviously, I think when people hear innovation, they're automatically going with technology, right? And don't get me wrong, that is a huge part of it. But then also is a matter of how do you utilize the food you have, and then also the food that you still are left over with, that you can continue to use it in the park in some way. Great way we'd say is like cinnamon bread, right? Great way to repurpose it is a bread pudding. It's still that amazing cinnamon bread. You baked so much of it, and then at the end of the night, what do you do with it? You throw it away? No, that's waste. We don't want to do that. You're using an innovative way to repurpose it to still create that financial gain for yourself, and then give the guests a whole new experience with an item they're already very happy with.
That's awesome. It actually leads me right into my next question, which is, how are you balancing efficiency with providing that memorable experience worth creating or eating, right? Over and
Yeah.
over again. Because like you said, there's this fine balance between, being efficient and still being innovative and being able to create these experiences. So can you tell us a little bit about that? How do you guys go about balancing that?
Sure. Well, I got a great team of managers that work very well together, and they are constantly looking at numbers to see where are we tracking throughout the day when it comes to labor. They're looking at the quality of the product as it's coming out, and we offer chicken tenders, burgers, pizza. You know, the norms that you'd find in a theme park that everybody's going to love, and you know those are the comfort foods I call in the theme park. You know,
Yeah,
that you always can trust in being there. You want them to be the same across the board. Now, something as simple as pizza sauce can be easily changed if you're doing things in this area here, and then this person here, and then this person here. You know, if you can build that consistency where you have the joys of having a commissary like we're very lucky to have, where you can do a mass production of producing that sauce so you have that consistent flavor across the board. It doesn't matter where you go. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, I have to go to this location because they do it this way and that location does that. No, we got it across the board. We want you to be able to enjoy it the same place, no matter where you're at in the park, enjoying yourself, having a good time. You know, I always joke around with my guys about the idea of, you know, back home, I knew that I would go to the Bell Road McDonald's because they put extra sauce on a Big Mac. But if I go to the one on Indian School Road, they don't put enough. Now, there's a recipe for a reason. You want to have that same experience
yeah,
wherever you're going. But
yeah.
if you find something you like, you always gravitate towards that. And then the funny thing is, there's probably at least 1,000 other people that feel exactly the same way you do, and I gravitate towards that also. But if we're able to utilize recipes the correct way and avoid higher costs, you know, without that extra added revenue, we can spread out, for lack of a word, what I like to call the damage, to be able to kind of be providing that great equal guest experience for everybody that comes by and gets that consistent, efficient serving to our guests.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point that you made, that being consistent and having your guests understand what they can expect every time. When you create a memory that's repeatable and eatable, right? Um,
Yeah,
I think it's important that when the guest comes back every time, they're repeating that same experience. And are you familiar? Have you ever read The E-Myth? Here's it reminded me of
no,
a book, because a lot of our audience is mid-size, the mid-market attractions, right? That
sure.
that may be viewing today. And there's a great book called The E-Myth, and what they talk about is kind of what you mentioned with the McDonald's market, right? Where we have,
Mhm,
um, we've got consistency with the brand. That when you show up to this brand, you know what to expect every time. And we've come to
mhm,
expect that. And because of that, that's where the guest satisfaction piece comes in, right? They
mhm,
Satisfaction goes up when they know that they can expect that. You build that trust.
mhm.
And we all
Absolutely.
know that you all over there at the Hershey brand have built that trust with all of your guests that come in. And I think that I love that you said it's repeatable, because we've got processes that make it so that the guests can expect that every single time. Well, I'm curious, before we start talking about some of the innovation, what strategies are you employing to foster a culture of teamwork and collaboration amongst your staff? And how are you ensuring that everyone is focusing on delivering that outstanding experience or guest service? What are some of the things that you're doing with your teams to create that environment?
Sure. So we've come up with, I would say, some terms that we kind of use in house for ourselves. They're when it comes to sanitation, you know, we've focused really hard this year. And one of my managers, her focus, her name is Samantha Hyder. She's amazing. Samantha's focus this year has been safety and sanitation for our park, and helping us to do to decrease our score in StairTech, which is a sanitation company that we utilize to help kind of keep us on par for providing a great experience for the guests, and a safe one at that.
Yeah,
But we worked with her to be able to kind of help and guide us and hold people to hold our team accountable, to work with our other managers to help give them knowledge on what we should be holding the team to standard wise. And we did a great job. We actually were able to lower our score from year over year for the past 3 years, which is awesome. But
congratulations.
having that open communication and creating that culture. So when you walk in, you say, "Hey, we want to be StereoTech ready." Our team already knows what that means. It's not a matter of they walk in and like, so we just need to make sure we wipe the walls. No, 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 no. There's a whole standard there that we're looking to hit every time. And they know it because we're walking it. We have our two supervisors that are walking every day to check and make sure. Do we have our red buckets out? Are we making sure that we're hitting the proper parts per million? Are we labeling? Are we dating? Are we going through and making sure we're washing hands correctly? I mean, here at Kentucky Kingdom, we have our employees. Our average age of employee for just the food and beverage department is 17 years old. So
Wow.
being open to just being like, oh yeah, I know how to proper wash hands. Yeah, they go to the bathroom, they do it every day, right? So we want to make sure that we teach them the proper way in the world of food and safety to do it when it comes down to being walked, serving food, changing gloves, touching their hair, little things like that. Hey, you got to wash your hands every time. Simple things that you would think is simple, but nobody really thinks about. So it's one of those things that we're
Right.
constantly focusing on throughout every day that we're open.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the average age of your employee is about 17. My daughter
Yeah.
recently got a job at Chick-fil-A, and they had this very serious training process, things that even myself being in this industry, and I work
Yeah.
on the technology side, so I'm not in the back of the house figuring out all of those processes often. It's only conversations like these that I get to learn so much about all of the working parts of your organizations.
Yeah.
But it's just like you said, all these small things that you have to think about: not having your hands in your pocket, not
Mhm.
touching your hair, all of these things that when we were reading the employee handbook, I'm like, man, they really thought about everything. And again, it goes back to creating a brand that people know and trust
Sure.
and know what to expect every time that you go there. Well, James, I would not be doing my job as the CEO of Gatemaster Technology if we did not talk a little bit about how uh, technology is enhancing food and beverage operations throughout the industry. And if
Mhm.
you would mind talking a little bit about some of the things that you guys are doing and maybe some of the technology that's being leveraged at your locations to be able to help you, one, because for me, I feel like technology should just enhance that experience. It is that
Mhm.
for it, the buying process and all of the tools that we use, those are usually the most forgettable part about the experiences. But when a guest has a bad experience with them, they remember that. So,
Mhm.
would you mind talking a little bit about some of the technology that's being used and how you're integrating that into your operations today?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would probably say we are in what I would like to call the beginning stages of really turning the page for us when it comes to technology. Security in our park, actually, we added the Evolve system. And instead of having a guest walk through what they look at and they see a metal detector like they see a TSA, they're walking through a system that is AI learning what you're doing and
Wow.
what it is and recognizing compounds as you're walking through to not hinder you, but at the same point in time, make sure it's safe for everybody, but at the same point in time, not make it a hard process or that very secure, almost trying to think of a good word to use for, when you feel you're walking through TSA, you got that little bit of tension,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
walking to a theme park. You don't want to feel that,
You have a friendlier experience.
Exactly, exactly. And it's been more than helpful for us throughout the year, and it's been helpful for us even in the past year when we first started it. But I mean, it's as simple as obviously detecting the things that we obviously don't want in the park, but also food and beverage walking in the park. You want to do what you can to obviously uh, control your revenue as much as possible because we're in food and beverage. Our goal is to make money and at the same point in time provide awesome food for great people walking in to enjoy. You
Yeah.
know, so when people are walking in, we've had to sit there and work with the system and be like, no, 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 bottled water, that's going to be okay. Yeah, orange slices for the baby, that's okay. So you can teach the system to do this, and it recognizes and it works perfectly and learns, and it goes on from that. One of the things that we're going to be employing this year is our QR codes on our cups. So we have our souvenir cups, and what we were starting to look at is how we have a free drink program that goes with our diamond plan or our gold plan, and we were like, how much are we actually consuming other than just sitting there saying, yes, we sold this many bibs of soda. Great. I really want to know exactly what our guests are drinking. We sold this amount, but how much are they consuming? Are they just throwing it away? Is it being so we're going to actually put a QR code that's going to track our guests that when they walk up, we scan it, boom. Wow, we actually went through 50,000 refills today just on Gold Cup members. Or is it beneficial to the guests? Do they really enjoy it? Is it that they're actually just going through and walking through and filling up their own cup and then walk? I want to know that. I want to be able to sit
Yeah.
there and see what does our guests really find beneficial in our packages. So little things like
Yeah.
that we're looking towards. We're also looking at in the future building out an actual mapping system that you can do on your phone. So when you're sitting there on your phone, you can sit there and type in, I want a hot dog. They'll show you all the places you can get a hot dog in the park. Now, I would love to say that's tomorrow. It's not happening tomorrow, but in the future, that's where we're working towards is how can we actually build
Yeah.
a better guest experience that's coming in and being able to assist the mom walking in and going, I need a Pepsi Zero. Where can I get my Pepsi Zero? Right. So
Yeah.
little things like that to put the information at their fingertips versus I have a map here. The phone's always on you. Go ahead, pull it out. Let's see what we can do to be able to help them and assist them in a better situation.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that is one of the things that, we pride ourselves in is helping the guest have that seamless experience so that they know where they need to go. I'm not calling out any parks, but I had an experience this year. We frequent a park. It wasn't one of your parks because it sounds to me like
Okay.
this wouldn't happen there, but I'm curious how you might have dealt with this situation differently or have assisted your team. So we're there on a busy, busy holiday this summer and the lines are just out the door, just as long as they could be. It was probably an hour just to get some water. But the thing that actually was hard for me to watch as somebody in this industry was that the team was so stressed. In fact, there were
Mm.
team members behind the counter in tears because they're just frazzled because they're out of things and they didn't have what they needed. And I'm just curious, for you, what would be so I hope that makes sense. I'm at a park,
Oh yeah.
and
No, been there.
it's not one of your guys' parks. It's somebody else's. And I just felt so bad for the team. You can tell I'm a mom because I just wanted to go behind the counter and hug everybody, tell them it's gonna be okay. Just
Mm.
smile, like we just got to keep going. You know, but, do you feel like technology would help in these situations for those team members that are behind the counter, that are feeling overwhelmed, that maybe are not equipped to deal with? I mean, as you know, some of the customers might be a little harder on them than others. Do you feel like technology is something that can help with that, or do you feel like that's all process?
I think it's a hand in hand type of experience on that one. I really do. Perfect example. We have a location that we used to serve. It's our number one location. It's Swamp Water Jacks, and it had the large pizza. It's a 16-inch pizza that we do out of the same oven that we're doing our flatbread out of. And one of the things I saw going into the park last year is this large pizza takes 5 minutes to cook, which slows
Yeah.
down all our flatbreads coming through, right? Now, the technology's there. Are we utilizing it the right way? Is there a better way to do this? And we definitely sat there and we looked at it. We watched transactions. We actually sat there with our phones and we clocked how much transaction times we're handling and what did they order. Okay, well, that slowed them down because they got that. So we actually moved the pizza to a completely different location. I was told right off the bat, your head's going to roll because you moved it. All right, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm not taking away. I'm just moving it to where actually the guests are all the time. And lo and behold, when we did that move, what we saw was more people going through the location at Swan Bar Jacks faster. And we had more transactions. Our per cap went up. So it was like it did
Wow.
what we wanted to do. It's perfect. And the
Yeah.
location we moved the large pizza to saw a drastic increase. I mean, like we were like hoping it would do well. It did better than we expected, right? So it
Yeah.
did very, very well. But yeah, again, technology is, I think, it's a two-way street. You kind of need to know what technologies you need to be able to put in that location, and then is it even the right one? Because sometimes, as bad as it sounds, technology is something we're always looking at. Is how is it going to help the human element? Sometimes the human element is still what we need. So
Yeah.
being able to utilize that and have a part of it and have it work together in a cooperation type scenario is a good thing, in my opinion. But then there's, tools for communication, that could help with those scenarios. And then also it just takes, it takes a family, really, it takes an army to be able to get in there and handle it. I'm very lucky. I can sit there and say there was one day that I was sitting there making pizzas in one location, and I see our IT manager walking through, he's helping shovel ice. It's having those people in the industry you're working with that just get it and understand. And if
Yeah.
Mason wasn't there, okay, we're going to get ice here sooner or later, but it's going to make sure it's going to be one of us having to walk away. But just having that kind of family type of scenario in a park that you work at, my GM is probably one of my best bartenders. I've seen her help me
Yeah.
out. Our director of operations, I've seen him get in and do funnel cakes and Dippin' Dots. I mean, that's the type of environment that we have there at Kentucky Kingdom, is everybody working together to help out everyone. So
Yeah, I love that.
that definitely helps. And that's not even technology. That's just awareness, and communication and teamwork.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 100%. It's the teamwork. It's the love that goes into the work that we do.
absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I've been in the attractions industry since 1999. And what got me hooked was just seeing how happy people are when they have these experiences. And I think
Mhm.
we in recent years have found that even more so than ever, that it's a quality of life product that we're giving to people. And some of my best memories with my family were going to parks and enjoying our time together. And I feel very, very lucky to be a part of that. And I think you share that sentiment. And I've really enjoyed this conversation today. I have so many more questions for you, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. And also, our audience, I'm sure, is going to love all of this content that you've given us today, and thought, and definitely got my interest piqued in thinking about how we can do better in the food and beverage portions of our businesses and attractions. So before we leave, is there any final thoughts that you want to leave with the audience today?
No, I mean, I really appreciate the time, but I mean, it really, when it comes down to it, it's a matter of just making the guest happy, And the weird thing about that is it kind of comes down to, are you happy? Are you enjoying what you're doing? And people that love what they do, I mean, that there's that old adage, enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? And honestly, when it comes down to food, I love food. I've always enjoyed food. I used to be a theater guy back in the day, and I used to be a server at Red Lobster. That was my first food and beverage gig. And to me, it became my new prop, being able to work and serve an ultimate feast, or, Walt's fried shrimp. That to me was my new prop, and I could have fun and still be on stage. And that's the same today, except now I get to actually work with people and grow them and see them turn into fantastic leaders, starting from just scooping Dippin' Dots all the way up to becoming a manager, and then someday becoming a director of their own park. I mean, that to me is really what it comes down to, is really being able to showcase what your team can do to make that guest experience the best you could ever have, and make it a memory worth repeating.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us. And I love that. I love that.
Sure.
And I share that sentiment. I worked for Pizza Hut, believe it or not. And back
Right?
in the late 90s. Yep. In fact, I saw something the other day. Somebody posted, it was like a meme that said something along the lines of, these magical people used to drive all over and deliver pizzas with no maps. I was one of those. Believe it or not, I was a pizza delivery, and I used to love
I used to
showing up at the
deliver.
pizza. It was like a party every time, every house. I got to knock on the door, and I knew all of the town that I
I
lived in
used
at
to
the time.
deliver pizzas for Domino's, so I totally get it. Absolutely, it's fun job for what it is. Absolutely, right?
Hey, and it's like you said, people are always happy to see you. It was one of the
Hmm.
best jobs I ever had, and I feel the
No
same way
one
about
is
what we
upset
do
about
here.
pizza.
I love that.
That's
Well, before
great.
we go, I just have to ask you one more thing. Are you coming to IAPA? Because we have a
I
very
am. I will be at
special
IFA.
event happening. Oh, awesome. Well, I can't wait to see you there. And Gate Master Technology is celebrating its 30th event, 30th year. We're kicking it off at Congo River Mini Golf. It's November 13th, the Monday night before the trade show opens from 6 to 9. And, we'd like to have anybody who wants to come celebrate this industry. It's really just about celebrating what we are all doing. And we wanted to create a special night for all of us to just let our hair down, but there's networking, mini golf, food, drinks. I hear we have a special cocktail being created just for this event, and mini golf, if I didn't mention that, and alligators. So I'm super excited about that. I have always had on my bucket list to touch an alligator. So this is your chance if you're like me. So I hope that you guys will join us. And James, thank you again for being on the show with me today. And I really appreciate your insights and all that you have to offer to everybody who's listening. Where can our audience find you if they have questions about what we talked about today? What's the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. You can always go to my LinkedIn page at James McQuade, or you can always go to KentuckyKingdom.com and you reach out to me there. Absolutely. But Sondra, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to come and share with your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Well, everyone, be great, and we'll talk soon. See you on the next.